What's going on, silencers? Hopefully you guys can hear me. Having nothing but microphone issues on this beautiful day. But yeah, I welcome to Radio Silence, the podcast where we talk about everything dark, disturbing, and normally not brought to the light of day. But we have to talk about it sometime. Fortunately, today's podcast is not actually all that dark and deep. We had a podcast suggestion come in from none other than Riska, and that suggestion is how to commit to learning a new language to not get burned out or just end up giving up. So I'm going to just touch on my experience in learning languages and little tips and tricks, not for specific languages. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. There will be some specifics for the languages that I've learned, but I want to be able to help you kind of start your journey. So, without any further ado, this podcast is not supposed to be monetized. So, if you do want to continue to support my channel, my Patreon is in my link tree in the description. And I do much appreciate it. Every little bit helps. I'm not very motivated to do anything, but if I had a little bit of support, I'd be a little more motivated. Just saying. And thank you to the few patrons that I do have. Your support means everything. Hell, all of you guys mean everything. So I'm very, very proud to be a part of your journey. And anyway, fuck it, let's do it. Full speed, mock Jesus. So, how do you go about learning a new language? I have no idea. I can honestly say that I have no idea how you go about learning a new language, and that would be because languages come really easily to me, because for as long as I can remember, I've enjoyed anthropology and linguistics and things like that. So when it comes to learning a new language, I just have to buckle down and start learning. There's a really good movie. It's called The 13th Warrior. It's got Antonio Banderas in it. I'm pretty sure it's from the late 80s, maybe early 90s. It's called The 13th Warrior, and Antonio Banderas plays an Arab with the worst Arabic I've ever heard in my life. Plays an Arab who goes to the Northlands, ends up in the Nordic regions, and there's this village that's being beset by the Eaters of the Dead, the cannibalistic pagan tribe that has been attacking this small kingdom. And Antonio Banderas gets called by the shaman to be the 13th warrior. 12 warriors are given the blessing of the shaman, and then the 13th warrior is supposed to be the warrior from the desert lands. And so it's Antonio Banderas that gets pulled into this, and he doesn't speak their language. His mentor speaks their language, but he doesn't speak their language. And over the course of several months, journeying with these Vikings, he keeps listening to them. He keeps hearing phrases over and over again, like "Nai Nakader," and just these phrases that he has no idea what they are. And over the course of several months, because Antonio Banderas was a poet, he starts picking up on patterns and vocabulary and things like that. And at one point, they're all sitting around the campfire, they're talking, and he's understanding them. And I think one of the Vikings says, yeah, she was a whore. And then he points at Antonio Banderas and goes, like, this one's mother. And Antonio Banderas answers them in their tongue and says, my mother was a decent woman, you son of a whore. And they say, how did you learn our language? And he said, I listened. I can't begin to tell you how much that would be unrealistic, but also it could be incredibly helpful in your journey to learn a language. Listening to native speakers speak their language, you pick up on nuances and little idiosyncrasies that you wouldn't catch from a textbook. The only problem with that is grammatical conjugations, especially verbal conjugations. Grammatical conjugations, especially verbal ones, are very difficult to pick up in everyday speech because they are different than you would find them written in a textbook. For instance, in Japanese, if you were to say to eat, it's taberu. That is dictionary form, taberu. You would almost never say that in a sentence. You would never say pizza o taberu. I eat pizza. You would say tabemasu, which is conjugating the verb to a base form and giving it a tense. So pizza o tabemasu is I eat pizza. But if you wanted to be polite, you would say pizza o tabete imasu. I am eating pizza, but it's more polite than I eat pizza. And then you can take it to a ridiculously casual tone and say pizza o tabe. I ate pizza, or I eat pizza. But that's like you and your idiot 3-year-old friend are talking and one of you says that. Very, very, very common tongue, low honorifics, absolutely horrible. Or you could say it simplistically that I ate pizza o tabeta. So you see how you might hear the word tabe, but you wouldn't understand the conjugation. You wouldn't understand the tense. You wouldn't understand the pretense that's intended behind that word or phrase. So listening has its benefits, because if you don't listen to native speakers, all you're learning is your what's the word in English? In Japanese, it's itai. It's what you want to say. You're learning what you want to say from your heart. But if you don't have a kikeru point, which is the ability to listen, or, can listen, kikeru. If you don't have that ability to listen, it doesn't matter. You're not going to have communication. You're just going to be able to spout off some nonsense. So listening to native speakers, very important. Is it the end all? No, absolutely not. For the most part, what you're going to need in order to learn a language is you're going to need a grammatical structure to follow. Whether you can get that from a textbook or from a teacher, I highly recommend a teacher, especially a teacher who is either native or has past proficiency level tests with has passed proficiency levels tests with their language that you're talking about. So in the case of Japanese, it would be the JLPT 1, 2, 3, and 4, which, if memory serves, it actually goes backwards. So you get level 4, then 3, then 2, then 1 is ultimate proficiency, if I recall correctly. I think I'm either at 3 or 2. I can't remember. It's been 13, 15 years since I've taken it. Anyway, so finding a teacher that can teach you grammatical structure is going to be your best bet, because you're going to need the grammatical structure to understand where the vocabulary words come into play. Now, vocabulary words, this is going to be kind of a what works best for you. So some people like to listen to YouTube videos where they have a native speaker, man or woman, say, the word for dog is inu. Inu, like you're going to listen to that over and over again. You're not really going to find a reason to say it. So my high recommendation to you is write down 5, 10, 15 words a day that you use every day, and then learn them in the new language. And take the grammatical structures that you're learning, like I eat, taberu, o taberu, and apply stuff into it. Hey, Riska, no worries. I'm talking about how to learn languages because that was your suggestion. No, you're totally fine. This was kind of out of the blue. I just sat down and I was like, you know what? I don't want to play a video game right now. I think I'm going to do one of the podcasts. And yours was the top end, currently only suggestion. So seriously, no worries. So write down those 10 or 15 words that you want to learn, that you use every day. So for instance, I can't remember the last time I used the phrase sagittal crown, which is the shape of the top of the head where the mastoid muscles, so all of your jaw muscles, connect. And the whole reason that gorillas have that big pointy head is because they've got really strong jaw muscles. So it has to connect at a physically acceptable location, which is the sagittal crown. I don't know that word in Japanese because I've never had to use it in Japanese. But I have had to use the word acid, like sulfuric acid, sulfur no san. So learning words that you're never going to use, not going to be helpful at all. But learning the basic things like mother, father, brother, sister, friend, house, bathroom, restaurant, soda, water, burger, sandwich, that kind of stuff is going to be what you want to focus on. And that will give you a basis to fit into your grammatical sentences that you're learning from a teacher, from a tutorial, or from a book if you're a lot more talented than me. I had a book, we called it the Pikachu. It was the intermediate dictionary, or the beginner's dictionary for Japanese grammar. There was the Pikachu, which was yellow, the Wartoil, which was blue, and the Charizard, which was red. And that's just the nicknames that we gave the books because, of course, we did. And I went through all three of them, and I learned a lot of my grammar from there. And then when I did learn grammar, I learned some vocabulary to go with it. So, for instance, noboru. Noboru means to ride. So like, jitensha o noboru, I ride bikes. Or yeah, I ride bikes. But that phrase can also be used in Japanese to indicate going up or down an escalator or set of stairs. So kaidan o noboru, I rode the stairs. Sounds kind of weird in English, but I learned the word for stairs, which is kaidan, as a result. So when you find grammar, find some vocabulary that goes with it, and specifically vocabulary that you use. That's going to be tantamount to your success. You have got to focus on what you're going to use. If you want to become a doctor in another country, you've got to become a doctor in your own language first so that you've got that vocabulary, that environment to stimulate your linguistic growth. So the first thing you need to do is find a teacher or a resource that gives you grammar. The second thing is to find vocabulary words that fits into that grammar that you're going to use, because if you're not going to use it, you are going to lose it. I can't tell you how much Japanese I've forgotten because I just don't use it. I can talk about my family, my friends, my interests, my hobbies, my hyperfixations, my mental disorders. I can talk about that all day. I can even talk about guns in Japanese. And Japanese people don't like to talk about guns. But those were my hyperfixations and my interests. So I learned all those words. Hi, Michael. Sorry. I saw that pop up and it occurred to me I was in the middle of a breath and I didn't stop to breathe. So that's the second part. The third part, and this is the one that gets people every time, change the way you speak your primary language to match the way that a native of the language you're learning would speak. So, for instance, my English is not the Queen's English. It's American English, but I would consider it fairly proper. My pronunciation is pretty on par with a public speaker, things like that. I've got a low resonance to my voice. I've got depth. I've got inflection and all that stuff. That doesn't help me speak Japanese better. But if I shift the way that I use my mouth muscles, let me rewind a little bit. The mouth muscles that you have are based on your primary language. They will always be based on the language that you speak the most. So if you want to learn how to speak another language like a native speaker, you need to learn how to speak your language the way they sound when they speak it. It sounds backwards, but I swear it works. So, for instance, and you'll have to forgive me because my Japanese accent in English is absolutely horrible, but if you ask a Japanese person, what do you want to eat in English? Their common response would be, I want to have some sushi. They wouldn't say, I want to have some sushi, because that's not how Japanese works. So I want to have sushi. Start changing the way you speak your primary tongue into the language that you're trying to learn. So if you want to learn something like Russian, you must learn to speak with accent that they have. Otherwise, your Russian will sound very forced and will not be right. It's not great, but if you constantly practice, you'll retrain your mouth muscles to speak like they do in their language. For instance, or give you an example, when I was living in Japan, we had this big Texas bloke. He done have one of them accents that was just right from the heart of Texas. And when he tried to speak Japanese for the first 6 or 8 months, he sounded like Konnichiwa, Genki desu ka? And it was the funniest shit I've ever heard. It made me laugh every time he opened his mouth. He could say the most offensive or retarded thing on the planet, and I would laugh my ass off, because there ain't nothing like a Japanese person with one of them accents. One day, it was just me and him, and I asked him, what does a Japanese person sound like when they speak in English? And he gave me an example, which was rough, because he's got that accent and he's going, I want to have some sandwich. But I told him to keep practicing that. And one day, this Texan walks up to me and goes, hey, Elder, how you doing? And I was like, I'm doing pretty good. And he switched over to Japanese and went, Watashi mo sonna ni muzukashiku koto ga atta n da kedo. And I was like, what the fuck? All of a sudden, he just switched. And it was great because I heard his accent go away. I heard him switch to Japanese. He changed the register of his voice to be less offensive, less jarring. not offensive, but less jarring. And his inflections were Japanese. His mannerisms were Japanese. The way he paused, and because in Japanese, they don't have normal pauses. It's not like or or something like that in English. They don't have English pauses, and normal is a relative term. They don't have English pauses. So he was in the middle of a sentence and went "eto," which is like a Japanese person going ... while they're thinking. And I was like, what in the hell happened? So I asked him, I was like, "Doatanga?" And he goes, yeah, nothing is normal and everything is at the same time. Absolutely, Lindsay. You're absolutely right. And I said, "Doatanga?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Kimi no kotoba o manande kuretara arigatai desu." And I was like, then it occurred to me that he still needed some help with his grammar, because he said that I learned him very well. But then I was like, okay, so I'm not a retard. That actually was good advice, and it worked for him. So that's my advice. 1, find someone or a resource that can teach you grammatical structure. 2, find vocabulary that you can use within that grammatical structure to ground it, and that you're going to use so that you don't lose it. And 3, start speaking your own native tongue in the accent that somebody who speaks the language you're trying to learn speaks. If that's English, if that's Spanish, if that's Portuguese, if that's French, if that's French Canadian, I don't know if that French and France French is different, but if they speak that, hell, they could speak Creole, and you'll want to speak like them to learn it. Write what down? Fake it till you make it? No, that's a really great way to look at it. Have confidence in what you're saying, and have the balls to take that criticism when it comes. But you'll know that you've reached a level of fluency in a language when you can ask for clarification in that language and receive the answer. That is when you know that you are absolutely at a level of fluency that you should be proud of. That being said, any efforts you should be proud of. If you start learning a language, for instance, I started learning Maori because I was gonna go spend some time in New Zealand. I ain't ever fucking going to New Zealand now, but I still remember a few words. Tēnā koe, thank you, that kind of stuff. When I was in my environmental science class, my teacher was Persian from Iran. She spoke Persian, and so I learned some basic Persian. Salam, man kas hastam, as didane shoma hoshbaktam. And I remember it, and I learned how to count, and I learned some basic math and things like that. And so you've got to keep up on it. Yes, Lindsay, you're absolutely right. So everywhere that I have ever been, if I have tried to speak somebody's native language with them, they were absolutely ecstatic that I was putting forth the effort to do that. Whether or not they spoke fluent English or not, absolutely ecstatic. The first time I came across a woman, I was in a shopping mall. I was visiting some family. I was in a shopping mall. My kids wanted to do this bouncy thing. And so they were doing the bouncy thing, and the woman next to me was wearing a hijab. And I asked, where are you from originally? What languages do you speak? And when she said, I speak Persian, I introduced myself in Persian, and she just mind blown. Bad choice of words, but mind blown. She absolutely loved it. And every time I've spoken with a Japanese speaker, the first time I spoke with somebody in Japanese Sign Language, they lost their shit. It was amazing because this poor woman, she was walking down the street with her husband or caretaker or whoever it was, and they were signing back and forth, and I bumped into her and I just said, I'm so sorry. That was all I did. I'm so sorry. I was rude. And she goes, and then she grabs me, which people in Japan don't do this very often, but I understand that, you know, she can't speak or anything. So she grabs me, she turns around, and she goes, your sign language is very talented. And I said, no, I only know a little. And that was enough to absolutely make her day. She was ecstatic. She said, I'm going to tell all my friends that I met a white guy that speaks Japanese Sign Language. I was like, all right, you do that. And we exchanged some more pleasantries, and then I bid her to have a good day, and she went on. So don't be scared to try, because if you don't look like an idiot now, you're going to look like an idiot in 10 years when you've got all this vocabulary and no experience. If you get the opportunity to speak with a native speaker, you will learn more in 5 minutes than you will in 5 weeks in a classroom. If you get the opportunity to go to a country that speaks that language, you will learn more in 5 days than you will in 5 years in a classroom. If you just push aside your pride and talk every chance you get. I speak in Japanese to myself and to others all day, every day, and I have for trying to remember how long I've been speaking Japanese. Started learning Japanese when I was 16 years. So for 16 years, there has not been a single day where I have not been speaking Japanese in some form or another. I will pull out my phone to Google Translate. I will look up a word, and then I will just make up a conversation in my head. Me, myself, and I have great conversations. I'll talk in English, and then Cast 2 will talk in Japanese, and Cast 3 will pick whatever the fuck he wants to do. He's an asshole, just so you know. Cast 3, he's an asshole. So he sometimes just gets on my nerves, and then I get to yell at him in Japanese. So, but I practice every day. So practice every day. If you learn the words for I eat, just walk around and go, banana o taberu. I eat bananas. Kohi o nomu. I drink coffee. Just literally pick that stupid phrase that you're like, I'm never going to have to say this all that much. I'm never going to forget it, and say it 1 billion times. And if 1 billion times comes around and you don't just automatically look over your shoulder and go, kohi o nomitai, I want to drink some coffee, then do it 1 million more. Because repetition is going to be your friend, and practicing your pronunciation after you have the vocabulary and the grammar is going to be also very important, because there are different grammatical structures that cause different pronunciations in different languages. Again, in Japanese, there is a symbol. It is literally translated in Romaji, Romanized letters, to the letter N. But depending on what word it ends up at the end of, it could be an N, it could be an NG, it could start a word. Don't get me started on that one, because that one's just a pain in the ass. It could start a word. It could also be an M. It could also be an MN or an NM, and they're different sounding. So once you've got that grammar down, you learn the little tricks here and there, and that's with your pronunciation. You're illegitimate. I can't read. I love it. That's awesome. You remind me of that movie Romeo and Juliet with it's got Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy and Emily Blunt. They play the voice actors. Love you too, Cobalt Dale. In that movie, the Capulets and the what the hell's the other family called? Anyway, red versus blue. The Reds are yelling at the Blues, and the blue lady screams something about being an illiterate, and the red guy goes, "I am not illiterate. My parents were married." And that just reminded me of it. So yeah, learn what you can every day and then practice those pronunciations. In Japanese, there's a really weird one. It's when you're counting. So, for instance, if you're counting minutes, minutes are fun, F-U-N, fun. However, if it's 1 minute, it's ippun, P-U-N. Then ni fun, F-U-N. Then san bun, B-U-N. Then yon pun. Then gopun, ropun, shipun, shichifun or nanapun, happun, hyufun, jupun. Like, what the hell? And then, yeah, Lindsay knows. I know Lindsay speaks Japanese. She's one of my IRL friends, and she speaks Japanese, so she totally understands. But the Uzumaki finger does the only Japanese thing I know. Well, that works. That works. Well, okay, you've taken Japanese. Sorry, Lindsay. And you understand the basics. So when I bitch about Japanese, you kind of understand where I'm coming from. But okay, so in quick review, and then yes, I will end this because I wasn't planning on jabbering for 35 minutes, though I do have fun doing these. Find a resource or a teacher for the grammar. I know what you're talking about, Cobalt Dale. 1,000 years of pain. So find a teacher or a resource that will give you grammatical structure. Then find vocabulary words within those grammatical structures that you will use every day and use them every day to excess. If you learn the phrase, I eat, then just walk around your house and you don't even need to know the Japanese word for what you eat. You can literally open your fridge and go, bread o taberu. Pasta o taberu, spaghetti o taberu. And then you learn the word for drink, milk o taberu. Just get the grammatical pattern down. And then you'll learn yunyu o nomu. I drink milk. Honyu o nomu. I drink soy milk. Sugyu. Sunyu, which is fake milk. Corn Ichiwat. Corn Ichiwat. That's funny. So learn those words, then start speaking your own language in the accent of the native speaker of the language you're trying to learn. And finally, use it every single day. Drive yourself nuts, drive your friends nuts, whatever it takes. And the last bonus thing was don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself, because if you're not an idiot today, you're an idiot in 10 years with a lot more wasted time. So be that idiot today, learn the little bits here and there that you can, little bits that you're going to always need, always learn, always know, like where's the bathroom? Ore wa doko? That kind of stuff. And then use it every day. Even if you're not talking to anybody, just say it in your head. Oh man, I gotta pee. Shiko shitai. Where's the bathroom? Toire wa doko? And then go with it. You get into the bathroom, you're like, oh, kore wa shiko janai. This isn't going to be a pee. Unko da. It's going to be a number 2. Well, I appreciate it, Riska. I'm not much of a teacher, but I do know what does and doesn't work for me. And that's what I can share with you. Doitashimashite, Dale-san. Don't touch my mustache. Japanese for you're welcome. Don't touch my mustache. Doitashimashite. But that'll be where I leave it. If you guys have any more ideas for little podcasts here and there that we can do, just general kind of questions like this works for me. I don't mind doing this at all. Mushi mushi? Okay. Here's a question. Is that when they answer the phone? Okay, that's moshi moshi. So in Japanese culture, they have something called a kitsune, fox demon, that that can mimic human speech. However, culturally accepted and mythologically sound, the fox creature cannot say moshi moshi. So when the phone was introduced to Japan, people were concerned that it was a fox demon on the other side of the phone. So in order to make sure that the person on the other side of the phone was legitimate, it became common practice to say mosh mosh as a form of hello. Basically, I'm real. I'm not a fox demon. You can talk to me. And so when somebody in Japan answers the phone, moshi moshi, it doesn't matter if it's super high up, executive level, dancho kind of stuff. He answers the phone, moshi moshi. Doesn't matter if it's a sweet old grandma, moshi moshi. Or you got a little kid, smush. It's always going to be a thing in Japan because they are very superstitious people and they're worried about fox demons being able to mimic people. So that's actually where it comes from. But for the sake of actual translation, it just means hello, specifically on a phone call or a digital front. If you can't see the person, it's very moshi moshi. But if it's a video call, because I teach English to Japanese people, and they'll just hello or konnichiwa or whatever it is. And this is kind of it's not sign language, but it's like the gesticulation for hello to a friend. So you'll see if you watch anime, somebody will talk and they'll go os or something like that. So it looks like a salute, but it's just the hand up somewhere close to the face. Os, konnichiwa, ohayou gozaimasu, konbanwa, kind of thing. So, but yeah, absolutely fantastic culture. Absolutely love Japanese. Kind of like a thumbs up. Like the thumbs up in Japanese is very different than you'll find across the world. It has a slightly different connotation. Waving your hand. Oh yeah, doing this, or especially over the head, is a very, very powerful term of endearment. So you'll see in anime all the time, if there's a girl that's interested in somebody, they're like, konnichiwa, kasu-san, whatever. And so they'll do that. And, but yeah, actually like waving low is kind of weird. It scares kids. But that's enough for a culture lesson today. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you have any other ideas, hit me up on my Discord or send me messages directly through any means that you actually can contact me. And we will absolutely go over whatever fun stuff you have. I can talk about the origins of Christmas, the origins of Krampus, love, marriage, fidelity. Like I said, I'll talk about anything. This podcast is kind of a catch-all for anything and everything you are willing to hear. So just let me know what you want to hear. Yes, Krampus is good. I like Krampus. I like the festival of Krampus that they do in the, I think it's the Netherlands or Sweden, but you have gnomes everywhere. That's awesome. But yeah, I won't keep you any longer. Thank you very much for watching and liking, and I hope that there's a suggestion so that I can see you in the next one. May the Arc Force be with you always.